What if everything you've been told about losing belly fat is not just wrong, but is actually working against you? Not slightly off, not a little outdated, completely biologically backwards. Most people are out there cutting calories, grinding through intense workouts, swapping meals for protein shakes, and doing everything the fitness world tells them to do. And yet the belly fat stays. Months pass, sometimes years. And instead of questioning the advice, they question themselves. They think they're not disciplined enough, not consistent enough, not trying hard enough. But what if the problem was never effort? What if the problem was that nobody ever explained to you how your body actually decides to burn fat in the first place? Here's the truth that most fitness content will never tell you. Your body does not burn fat because you want it to. It does not burn fat because you worked out this morning, or because you had a salad for lunch, or because you're being really good this week. Your body burns fat only when the internal biological environment makes it necessary. That's it. There's no shortcut around it. There's no superfood that forces it. There's no exercise trick that bypasses it. The human body runs on a very specific logic, and until you understand that logic, you will keep doing the right things and getting the wrong results. That stops today, because once you understand what's actually happening inside your metabolism, everything changes. Let's start with the real reason belly fat sticks around even when you're doing everything right. There are 3 invisible biological forces working against you, and most people have never heard of any of them. The first is chronically elevated insulin. Insulin is not a villain. It's a hormone your body absolutely needs to survive. Every time you eat, insulin rises to move energy into your cells. That's normal. That's healthy. The problem happens when insulin never gets the chance to fall back down. Because when insulin stays elevated, your body enters a very specific mode. It locks the door to stored fat. Not because it doesn't need energy, but because high insulin is a signal that says energy is already available. No need to open reserves. Keep everything stored. This is why so many people can eat less and exercise more and still watch their belly stay exactly the same. They are burning energy, but not the right kind. Their body is running on blood sugar and glycogen, which is stored glucose in the muscles and liver, while fat stays completely untouched behind insulin's locked gate. And here's where it gets even more frustrating. When your body can't access its fat stores for fuel, it gets confused. It thinks it's running low on energy, even though you're carrying weeks' worth of it around your midsection. So what does it do? It makes you hungrier. It increases cravings. Not because you're weak, because the system is working exactly as designed, just with the wrong inputs. The second force is something most people are experiencing right now without realizing it: chronic stress and elevated cortisol. Cortisol is your body's stress hormone. In nature, it was designed to save your life. It floods your system when you're in danger, sharpens your focus, and floods your bloodstream with glucose so your muscles can react fast. That's brilliant design for a short emergency. But modern life doesn't give you short emergencies. It gives you deadlines that never end, financial pressure that never disappears, sleep that never feels like enough, and a phone that constantly demands your attention. Your body can't tell the difference between running from a predator and sitting anxiously at a desk. Cortisol stays high, and when it does, your body stays in emergency mode, always prioritizing fast glucose fuel, always blocking slow fat fuel, and always storing more fat around the abdomen, because that's the closest location to vital organs it's trying to protect. This also explains something that millions of people experience and feel guilty about every single evening: the carb cravings that hit hard at night, the sudden need for something sweet or starchy after dinner. That is not a character flaw. That is biology. A body running high cortisol all day will desperately signal for fast glucose at night to try to recover. Your cravings are biological messaging, not moral failure. And the third force, which is the most overlooked of all, is what's called carbohydrate dependence. A body that has been fed primarily on sugar and starch for years becomes extremely efficient at burning glucose and almost completely clumsy at burning fat. This is simple adaptation. The body becomes skilled at using the fuel it receives most often. The tragic part is that when this kind of person tries to reduce carbs or try fasting, their body panics. It has never learned to switch to fat smoothly, so it responds with fatigue, dizziness, brain fog, irritability, and a deep conviction that they just can't function without carbs. They stop. They assume it's not for them. But the truth is, their metabolism just hasn't been trained yet. Now here's what makes this so hard to escape. These three forces don't just exist side by side. They fuel each other. Stress raises cortisol. Cortisol raises insulin. High insulin locks fat stores. Locked fat stores cause hunger and cravings. Cravings lead to more carbs. More carbs keep insulin high. And the cycle continues every single day, quietly keeping belly fat exactly where it is, no matter what you try. The most important shift at this point is not finding a new diet. It's stopping the self-blame. Your body is not working against you. It is protecting you based on the signals it has been receiving. Change the signals, and the body changes its behavior. That is the core truth behind everything we're going to talk about next. Before getting into what to actually do, you need to understand one more biological fact that most fitness advice completely ignores. Your body uses energy in a strict priority order. It does not take requests. It does not let you choose which fuel source to burn based on which area you want to slim down. It follows a hierarchy every single time, without exception. First, it burns carbohydrates from your most recent meal. Glucose is the fastest fuel, especially for the brain. So as long as there's blood sugar available, nothing else gets touched. Second, once dietary carbs are cleared, the body moves to glycogen, the stored glucose sitting in your liver and muscles. This is why people can fast for several hours and feel completely fine. They're not burning fat yet. They're still running on stored glucose. This phase can last quite a long time depending on how much glycogen is stored. Third, the body begins to use incoming dietary fat for energy. This is where a lot of people make a critical mistake. They start eating more fat, maybe following a low-carb approach, they feel better, and they assume they're burning their belly fat. But if you're eating enough dietary fat to cover your energy needs, your body is burning that fat, not the fat stored on your body. The fat around your midsection only becomes the primary fuel source when all three of those earlier sources have been reduced enough, and when insulin has dropped low enough to allow fat cells to actually release their stored energy. Only then, not before. You cannot skip this sequence. No exercise, no supplement, no hack can force it out of order. This is why the approach matters so much more than the intensity of the effort. So what does the right approach actually look like? It starts with the most powerful lever available, reducing sugar and refined carbohydrates. Not because carbs are evil, not because you need to fear them forever, but because refined sugar and starch are the strongest insulin triggers that exist. When they're frequent, insulin never gets to fall, and fat burning never gets to begin. Removing or significantly reducing them is not punishment. It is literally the prerequisite for fat access. Many people start to see dramatic changes when they get below 30 grams of net carbs per day, but that number is individual. What matters more than the number is how your body responds. Non-starchy vegetables, things like leafy greens, cucumbers, broccoli, and zucchini, can and should still be eaten freely. They provide fiber, nutrients, and fullness without causing significant insulin spikes. The second piece is exercise, but not the kind most people think. In a state of insulin resistance and chronic stress, hammering your body with high-intensity workouts every day can actually make things worse. Intense, prolonged exercise raises cortisol, and elevated cortisol, as you now understand, tells the body to hold on to abdominal fat. Low-intensity movement, long walks, light cycling, gentle swimming, is often far more effective for fat loss in the beginning because it burns energy without triggering the stress response. Brief high-intensity efforts have their place, but they work best when the hormonal environment is already calm. More sweat does not mean more fat burning. Smarter signaling does. Sleep and stress reduction are not bonus points on this journey. They are non-negotiable. A person sleeping 5 hours a night with a constantly anxious mind can follow a perfect diet and still see minimal belly fat loss because cortisol will be high enough to prevent it. Deep breathing practices, meditation, deliberate time away from screens, and prioritizing 7 to 9 hours of sleep are not luxuries. They are metabolic tools. When cortisol drops, insulin sensitivity improves. When insulin sensitivity improves, fat becomes accessible. It genuinely is that connected. Protein intake also needs to be managed thoughtfully. Protein is essential and must not be eliminated, but excessive amounts of lean protein can be converted into glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis. This quietly raises insulin in people who think they're eating perfectly. Switching some protein sources to naturally fattier options often stabilizes energy and removes this hidden insulin trigger. Once the body has adjusted to lower carbs, lower insulin, and calmer stress levels, fasting becomes an extraordinary tool, but the order matters enormously. Fasting first, before the body is metabolically ready, often backfires. In a glucose-dependent body, fasting feels like an emergency. Cortisol spikes. Cravings become overwhelming. Sleep worsens. People feel terrible and conclude that fasting doesn't work for them. In reality, the body simply wasn't prepared yet. But when fasting is introduced after the groundwork is laid, it becomes almost effortless. Insulin drops to its lowest levels during fasting. Growth hormone increases, which protects muscle and accelerates fat burning. The body, now trained to use fat as fuel, simply shifts over to stored body fat to sustain itself. Hunger quiets. Energy remains stable. Clarity improves. And belly fat begins to leave, not because it's being forced out, but because it is now the most available and preferred energy source. You'll know fat burning is genuinely happening, not because the scale drops dramatically overnight, but because your body will tell you in quiet, unmistakable ways. The constant urge to eat between meals disappears. You can skip a meal and feel fine instead of shaky and irritable. Your energy no longer spikes and crashes. It just stays even and calm throughout the day. Your thinking gets clearer. That low-level brain fog you assumed was normal starts to lift. Your waistline changes before your weight does, because visceral fat, the deep abdominal fat around your organs, is the most metabolically active and the first to go when insulin drops. Clothes fit differently before the number on the scale moves much. And perhaps most surprisingly, food starts to lose its emotional power. You stop thinking about eating all the time. You eat when you're genuinely hungry, stop when you're full, and don't feel obsessed or deprived. That shift, right there, is one of the most powerful signs that your metabolism has changed. There are also traps that look like progress, but aren't. Losing weight rapidly through severe restriction usually means you're losing water, glycogen, and muscle, not fat. The scale drops, but belly fat remains, and often rebounds harder when normal eating resumes. Exhausting workouts that leave you depleted and craving sugar are not signs of good fat burning. They are signs of cortisol overload. Eating clean but enormous amounts of lean protein can quietly stall everything despite looking like a perfect diet. And adding a lot of dietary fat before insulin is truly low just means the body burns that fat instead of stored fat. Real progress is quiet, gradual, and marked by stability, not suffering. If there is one thing that should stay with you after everything you've just learned, it is this. Belly fat is not evidence that you have failed. It is evidence that your body received certain signals for a long time and responded to them logically and predictably. The body was not broken. It was working exactly as designed given the inputs it received, which means the path forward is not to fight harder. It is to change the inputs. Lower insulin naturally. Calm cortisol consistently. Train the body to use fat as fuel gradually. Let fasting amplify what the foundation has already built, and give the body the one thing it needs more than anything else to cooperate: the right biological conditions and enough time to adapt. When you stop fighting your body and start communicating with it through the signals it actually understands, something shifts. Hunger becomes manageable. Energy becomes reliable. Belly fat begins to release. Not because you forced it, because you finally stopped asking your body to violate its own design. And that, more than any diet or workout ever could, is what makes fat loss real, lasting, and genuinely freeing.